Welcome to SOVL. I'm Chakax. We'll be playing a SOVL run, as you've seen from the title and thumbnail, with the Reptilian Kingdoms through the Saurian Warlord. SOVL is a kind of strategy, real-time TTRPS sort of thing, which is you'll pick it up very quickly if you're not familiar. It's a fairly simplistic strategy game. The run will contain a kind of mixture of high-level stuff as well as explaining some of the basic mechanics, so that it's beginner-friendly. You can come along if you want. The Reptilian Kingdoms, such as they're renamed, are near and dear to my heart, as they're effectively the equivalent of Lizardmen, which is my faction in the Warhammer Fantasy Battles game, if you have any familiarity with that. So we're happy to get started and go into this. Okay, so now we know Saurian Warlord himself comes with a unit of kind of Saurian infantry, so a good, like, healthy block of solid infantry, so we don't need more. So I'll probably go with the Raptor Riders, and then yeah, it's an interesting kind of pick here. So Jungle Swarms are a fascinating unit where they have basically no damage output whatsoever. They're dismal, but they have an immense number of wounds, and you can combo that with an ability you can get later. I'm not going to spoil it now, but it makes it so that they're virtually unmovable. It's like an infinite wall of snakes you have to fight through. Another unit of Saurus Warriors is a bit dull. We've already got one. I'm not going to be able to resist taking the Triceratops. So as you saw from the start there, I've already gone through a couple of the levels to make sure that I have a couple of the beasts unlocked. The only one left is the Tyrannosaur you'd have seen, but that's a mount, not an individual unit, so you'll never be able to play it. This is our campaign. So our army is 5 dinosaur men on top of giant dinosaurs, flanked by a boss dinosaur and his dinosaur warriors, and a Triceratops. Fitting the theme there. So on the campaign map, you have a number of choices. You navigate your way through these battlefields with the intention of eventually reaching the end boss fight here. So as we go through, you have the Swords Crossed, which are fights in which you earn gold and XP, and have that obviously you might lose and sustain casualties. Random events are a strange smorgasbord of different things you get. You might encounter a mercenary who you can hire, a group of monsters that you can fight and kill, a magic item, a forgotten tomb to plunder for treasure. There's a fairly wide range of options there. An armory, which is a shop where you buy new units and upgrade the ones you already have. Elite battles, which are the equivalent of the regular battles but harder while generating more gold. And campsites, which are an interesting trade-off between the battles because you don't get any gold, but you get to heal automatically once, and you get to pick between taking XP or another round of healing. So generally you want to try and take as many fights as possible over the campsites because they're the same except the fights give you gold. You would take a camp if you're like in a lot of trouble and you're taking a lot of damage, but if you're doing well, you kind of want to steer your way into battles. So having a look, we kind of want to avoid too many of these random events because they're a bit of a hassle. So we'll probably come up this way because we can go fight, 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 shop, and then you can go. I suppose the hardest path would be fight, elite, fight, and then you have to take, or you get stuck with some random events and cabs. So you could go up instead. We can go this way, taking a random event there, and it's all fights all the way through. But regardless, it's probably better to start up here and give ourselves the options. While we do this playthrough, I'm going to let you know that I'm perfectly happy if anyone wants to drop a comment in the section. You can rename any of these units. So he's currently the Mighty Stomper, Triceratops, Slargrak, the Saurian Warlord, the Jungle Claws, Raptor Riders, or even the Slargax Phalanx. So you can rename any of those, anything you see fit. So on a first come, first served basis. Other than that, we'll get stuck right in. I'm glad I went ahead and played quickly speed round a few playthroughs of the Reptilian Kingdoms because at the start they have pretty good durability. They're a tanky faction, but their damage output's not great. They're kind of a weak start. The reason for that is because their upgrade trees and what you can get out of their levels are remarkable. So much so that they have to be kind of weak at the start, otherwise they'd be too damn strong. Okay, so they're forced to go first, which is good because gives me time. So as we go through the game, you'll notice, so you get facings. You can position and move troops around using the X and C key. So if I hold X, I can see my charge range, and probably more importantly, holding C, you can see the enemy charge range. So this is what they can see. If you're within their cone at the start of the next phase, they'll be able to declare a charge on you. So ideally, I don't really want to let them do that, so I'm just going to position myself. We'll find there. We'll go into his ability later. So what we can do is we can just calmly step out of there. So we would be able to see them, and they wouldn't be able to see us. But if we're lucky, what we might be able to do is dart forward here and get a flank charge instead. So units have facings, as you've perhaps gathered. So they're front, two sides, and a rear, or rather two flanks. So if you get the majority of your unit into a flank, when you perform the charge, you'll dive into their flank. The benefit of that is that they don't get all of their attacks into you. They have a severely reduced profile. So this is pretty great, because we'll be able to get to here. The terrain would block me, so if I demonstrate, if I was back, sort of further back here, behind the terrain, I guess I can just use this as an opportunity to show you. So that this is my charge range. So you see how I can't see past the end of this terrain, but once you step into the terrain, you now can see past it, so it acts as a blocker. That's fine, so we can clearly see them. They can't see us, because their vision stops there. So we've got them, and we're not going to be intercepted by anything. We have a unit of bows here, might as well, why not? Try and shoot them, take some damage. I'll explain how the damage works later when we get stuck into combat. And 2. Okay, so we have this one for free. Yeah, so in they go. So we'll go over charge bonuses. There's the obvious benefit of charging in the side is that you've denied them most of their power, but there's more than that because it changes statistics. So we'll go. So we'll now flank them with our fast cavalry here, which is excellent. In fact, we might even consider not sending the warlord in. I think it would still be worth it. We'll consider. The other thing we're going to have to decide now is that our warlord has the ability War Cry. So once per fight, you can increase the power of all your units. So we have a look, is that mathematically worth it? So the Triceratops starts at power 5. We look, it has Horn's ability, so when you charge, it increases by 1 up to 6. So we'll be power 6 effectively. The Riders are defense 5. So we're already a greater power than their defense, so there's not any point in adding 1 extra. So we're not going to use that ability now. We're just happy to stand here. I don't think what you'd like to do is get into the flank of this unit, but we're not going to get there to double flank them. It's just too far. So we're going to have to be happy with that. Okay, our first fight. So first of all, we have to hit the enemy. So to determine that, it compares skill versus skill. So we have equal skill, and when you have equal, you hit on a 4+, meaning a roll of a 4, 5, or 6 on the dice is a success, 1, 2, or 3 fail. So we do great, we get 4 out of 5 hits and 1 fail. Okay, it's going to whiz by annoyingly. I'm going to let it roll and then go back and explain. Okay, so after the hit roll, you then go into a save roll. So we've hit them 4 times, and which it will then compare, need to do a save, so it will then compare power versus defense. So because we add greater power to their defense, they can only save on 5s or 6s, meaning 5s or 6s are successes, 1s, 2s, 3s, or 4s are fails. So they failed 3 times. The Bull Riders have 2 wounds each, so 3 fails, 1 dies, and 1 is on half a wound, effectively. So the Bull Riders then hit me back, so we have equal skill again. Now, because we charged them in the flank, only 1 guy could fight, the one closest to us here. So he got 2 attacks. He hit me once, because we had equal skill 4s. Now, because he's only power 4, and I'm defense 7, that's a difference of 3. So ordinarily, when you have if you had a higher defense, you'd be saving on a 3+. If your defense is 3 higher or more than the attack coming at you, it actually improves all the way to a 2+, meaning you pass on anything except a 1. So we're fine. So we win by 4. Now, when you win combat, the enemy has to take a morale check, or break test, which is effectively their discipline minus how much they lost by. So they lost by a load and they immediately ran away. Not surprising. Now here, we're going to flank them. So the enemy has declared a charge on us, which is fairly reasonable, but because we can, when you hit a unit in a flank, you intercept them, which effectively kills their charge, so they're not able to bother you, which is excellent. In we go. We're not able to. We need to make a decision whether or not. So we've sent him in. We've sent the Raptor Riders into the flank. I'm not immediately convinced they're going to be able to win that, but I'm happy to leave them to it for now, because then I can. If the Orc Warriors hold and they don't run away, what will happen is they'll turn and face the enemy, at which point we can get some very easy kind of flanks with these other units, which is fine by me. So you'll go there. You cannot shoot into an active combat, so the bows are worthless here. We can't do anything. What we will do this time, however, is we will use War Cry, because there's no point, unfortunately, because look, their defense 4, we're power 4, and you can't see it, but the hand weapon and shield there gives you 1 more on the charge. So we'll go up to 5. We're over their defense already, so adding 1 more, going up to the power 6 versus defense 4 is irrelevant, because it moves us 2 higher, but we only get to the better threshold once you're 3 higher. So it's worthless. We might, again, no point in using that ability there. So we'll do our attack. So equal skill versus equal skill again. We've got 5 guys with 2 attacks each for 10 attacks in total. We hit slightly above average 6 times. And oh, they did have a very good save roll though. Three guys hit me back. They hit once. I take a wound, but fortunately because these characters they have 2 wounds each, I don't lose one. Frustratingly, they hold because they're all just good enough to hold. So I was hoping they would break and run away there, but they had a particularly good save roll which kept them in it. But now we can just surround them with everyone. We can absolutely hammer them. So that's an easy win. The downside to this, of course, is that we'll probably lose one of these raptors. I'll now use the war cry because even if it mathematically makes no difference, what am I saving it for? You might as well use it. So Tlargrak's going to go. He has slightly better skill than them, so instead of hitting on 4s, he's actually hitting on 3. So anything but a 1 and 2. So he hits, yeah, the 3s are hits where they wouldn't nice. And then he gets 2 wounds because his power's better than their defense, so they only save on 5+. Our raptors are going now. They didn't charge this turn, but because I used Warcry, they're still power 5, so it did actually make sense to do it on them. Not a great hit roll, unfortunately. But they can't save to save their lives, so good. They hit really well, so this is going to hurt. Okay, just 1. Okay, I just lose the 1. It could have been a lot worse. Okay, now my Saurians go. Saurian Warriors, so they're 4 base, +1 for Warcry, +1 for the hand weapon and shields, which gives you a permanent defense, and +1 power on the charge. It gets me to 6, which is unfortunate because it's still not enough to get to 7 would be the next crucial point where you get to saves, but I mean we've got low skill. It's the general gist of the Saurian army. I'm afraid they're not great. We take no casualties in return, which is good. And then the Triceratops smash. He's all with Warcry and Horns. He's all the way up to power 7, so he can hit them. His skill is rubbish, so he can't do much. But yeah, they're reduced to 6s, so only a roll of a 6 will save them against that much power. You can't roll a -3 on 2 dice, I'm afraid. So when a unit is surrounded and it fails morale, it doesn't run away. Rather, it gets basically trapped and killed, so it immediately collapses. And now at the end of each fight, you look at the kills, you look at how many casualties you've sustained. If you sustain a lot, you may automatically heal 1 or 2, not off of healing 1, I'm afraid. And then you can look at your model. So because of the difficulty we're playing on, the Saurian Warriors unit started at lower numbers. That's honestly fine for now. You get a choice between you can either take healing or rest or loot. So you rest if you've taken a real kicking, but that's a perfectly valid unit at size. We'll take money, and the Triceratops is healthy, so we'll just take the money. Now the Raptor Riders could benefit from a heal, but I'm fairly happy to use them as a unit of 4, so just this time I'll take the gold. If we drop lower than that, I'll go ahead and move us back up. Go straight into another fight. I'll take the fights over random events when I have the discretion because they're guaranteed value. The random events can be fantastic, or they can be, frankly, a real waste of time. So we'll use our mobile unit on the flank there, and then this is also fairly fast. You want to stay out of difficult terrain where you can, so that it provides cover and it messes with line of sight, but more importantly, it halves your movement as you're moving through it. So don't muck around being in there too much, you'll slow you down. Okay, so the goblins, so we have short bows, so an archer unit, so we want to get onto them as quickly as possible. A unit of goblin riders. Now I'm happy to send the Triceratops into them. The justification being is that they'll be power 3 plus 1 on the charge gets them to power 4, but we're defense 7. So any attacks they do on me, I'm going to have a 2+ save, so I'll be fine on anything but a 1. So yeah, let's just get up to them. And then my charge would actually matter because they're only defense 3, so if I can get the charge, that'd be good. It's going to be hard, so because if I go first, I'm not going to be able to catch them, so what I need to do instead is I need to go first with this unit, advance up here. Let's not get into combat too quickly. Just go to there. And I hope, no, okay. I was hoping that they would come forward. So I've now got to make a decision. If I go forward with this, it makes the shots of these easier and they can probably do a bit more damage to me. Which, I mean, I can get there in combat, but it just makes their lives easier. So perhaps they're pretty short range. So I think as long as I'm quite far away, so I can just about see them and I don't want to get any closer. I think that's still long range for short bows, so I think that's okay. I'm never going to get to the side, so we might as well just take the front charge. Excellent, now he's moved with him. Okay, he would be able to flank me here, but I'm obviously going to just put the Triceratops dead in his way so he can't stop me. So a little bit of kind of intricacy when it comes to charges. You cannot declare a charge, so the way it determines facing is that it will take the center point of the enemy unit and the center point of the facing you're attempting to charge. So if you cannot draw a straight line from here to here, which of course they can't do on account of the fact that I've plonked a ruddy great dinosaur in front of them, they will not legally be able to declare that charge. So they can, I mean, they shouldn't be able to see them because that's obviously a slight bug there. I'd obviously be blocking them. I shoot them with bows because, yeah, why not? Might as well. They save them, so we're okay. They're now going to shoot me. It's still long range, which is good. And their power is what? Power 3. Unfortunate defense 5, so I'll save on 3s. I save everything. Great luck. Yeah, we got fairly fortunate there. So the Raptors should be able to clean up these. They're only defense 2. See the short bows, they're dismal, so they're just... That's a free kill. They'll charge me, I'll charge them. Fine. I should be able to hammer through them, no problem at all. So they're going to come towards me. Now, we could simply accept this fight, which is... We would probably win more often than not. We are a much stronger unit. But we have 2 fights here that we're fairly confident are going to go our way. So what we'll probably do, we can wait for these to basically finish up, and then they can turn around and hit him. So it's a little bit cowardly, but strategically the best move here is to buy time and wait for our allies to help us. Is there any point in using Warcry? Again, we can math this out. So it will be 5 plus 1 is 6 against defense 3. Great, we've already reached the maximum. We're 3 over. They're saving on 6s only. We don't need any more. And here will be power 4 up to 5 with the charge. And they're only defense 2. So again, we're already 3 or more over. We've maxed out the amount of damage we can do. No value in adding more power at this stage. So they're going to attack me. They only hit 4 times. And yeah, anything but a 1 is a save. So I take a wound, which is fine. And so this is... We're going to do great damage on the save roll. It's just hitting, which is a bit tricky. So I'm hoping for a good hit roll. That's fine. Okay, and they'll save on only 6s. So yeah, we'll win. And their goblins have dismal morale, so even a minor victory like that causes them to break and run. Here again, our low skill is just making this a bit grim. So good hits, and again anything. So all those 5s are fails, despite how well they rolled. Now, unfortunately, unlike the Triceratops, our defense just isn't high enough to stop them from getting good hits on us. So we might take some casualties. Yeah, it's unfortunate. In fact, we rolled really badly there, and it came out as a draw. We might eventually lose that to attrition, but never mind. So we have no charge to declare. He's going to trundle forward, which is fine by us because it allows us to quite easily... Don't think I can be cheeky and get a rear charge here. It's going to wind up being a side charge, but so be it. Take some shots while we have the chance. Like that. Shot one goblin. I suppose what you would like to do is get them round a flank. We're not going to be able to get there this turn, but we'll be able to do it next turn. Now, there is a point of war crying now because it would make it slightly easier for this unit to do more damage. And war crying when we face this will be 5. Would matter, but hand on heart, I think we're just going to splatter this enemy anyway. So I'm going to use war cry to help this unit out, because it's the one combat which is going to be a bit of a struggle. We're just going to squash this goblin mob. So only 2 hits here, this is going to be a bit grim. They keep rolling really well, and I keep rolling, not well. In fact, we lost against a really weak unit of archers. That's really not very impressive, riders. That's quite grim. That's not average at all. So they've charged us, but we can intercept them, so that's simply not happening. And then the Goblin Arch unit won't be able to bother us, so I'll just let that happen for a bit. Oh, they're going to fire into the back of my... And he killed it. Okay, just... How petty. They shot the unit's death. To be fair, they underperformed massively, so you kind of deserve it. We'll wait for them to turn and face or run away. I'm happy with either. So we hit 3 again. Squash 2 of them. They hit back. Hit twice, and it'll be anything but a 1 again. We still managed to roll a 1. Brilliant work. Again, it's enough to immediately break them. If you can just make them roll morale, you've got them, because they've got terrible morale. And then, right, so what we're going to do is we're now going to be a bit cheeky. I'm actually going to charge him into the rear. The justification being is that the goblin shortbows can't shoot me if I do that. And they can't, when you do a rear charge, you take, unlike a side charge, where they can get a couple hits in, they get no hits in whatsoever. They just can't bother you at all. They'll just skip the phase. We're happy to just stand there. 3 hits again, how consistent. And then 3 dead. They get nothing back, so we get 3 kills plus 1 for the rear is 4. They're not even close to holding themselves. The enemy's taken so much damage now that they'll rout at the end of this turn, even if they're still alive. So, rinse, repeat. I'm happy to just show them the door, so to speak. No point in not charging them. They can't target anything, so I don't know, just sit there. Regardless of what happens here, we'll just win the round ends at this point. They break again and completely run off the field this time. We're going to have to spend quite a bit of time now healing our poor raptor riders because they got destroyed. Losing 4 raptors to a goblin bow unit is pathetic, let's be honest. Okay, upgrades. Now we've got enough XP to level. The The Saurian Kingdoms up level system, the XP, is one of the most fascinating ones in the entire game, because they get, rather than other things where you get looter plus 5 gold or maybe X plus 1 skill or something, you get these aspect upgrades. So they do so Raptor aspect is unit gains a lethal attacks, meaning that any blow you do does 2 wounds. Now don't be tricked by that. It doesn't mean every wound they get through kills 2 enemy models. You only get 1 kill. Rather, if you're up against an enemy that has multiple wounds, so if we're facing an enemy cavalry unit that has 2 wounds, you would kill each in 1 shot because you do 2 wounds each. It applies to monsters as well that have multiple wounds. So you don't cleave your way through hordes more effectively, but it's very good against elite units and big multi-wound monsters. The other one that's quite interesting is the salamander aspect, where you regenerate wounds lost kind of at the end of the turn. Effectively what that means is that if I took, say, in a round of combat, if I took 1 wound, okay, so I've got 4 guys and 1's wounded, as long as you don't lose the whole model, so as long as you don't take 2 wounds, you'll always regenerate that 1 wound into the next round. So you just keep going. So I'm going to take the salamander aspect because it's fantastic for longevity. The Saurian Kingdoms, I realised as I played through, are more durable than they are offensive. So they have a lot of stuff like this that lets them do that. So, wow. I never had the Triceratops before. I presume that the salamander aspect wasn't valid, because that would surely be broken. But if you think about what I just said, its defense 7 and has 8 wounds. And it would regenerate every wound that it loses at the start of every round of combat. So unless the enemy does 8 wounds instantly, you'll always survive. That's one of the easiest auto-take abilities I've ever seen. Serpent is interesting where you can force enemies to reroll saves, but this thing is basically invincible now, as far as I can tell. Even if it lost combat, it's fearless, so it doesn't take any of the penalties from losing. It will just keep fighting, so it's always discipline 9 and will always regenerate up to full HP if it's still alive. Nothing in the game is ever going to do 8 wounds to this thing at defense 7. So there you go, it's basically immortal. So in terms of gold, they're still fine. 7 of 8 is perfectly fine, and what we are going to heal them. I was hoping for 2 there, but we'll have to take 1. I think we'll do 1 more fight. No reason not to. Roaming brigands, so facing a unit of archers and a unit of swordsmen. So we're hopeful to get... Well, I'd rather the Triceratops be in front of the archers, if I'm honest, because he can just... Oh, they'll probably be over here. Because they'll bounce off of him because it's power 3 versus defense 7. They'll do almost nothing. So you can shoot them as many times as you'd like. They're not going to do a whole lot. And he'll regenerate anyway, so who cares? Yeah, he will effectively nullify the archer unit. They'll never be able to kill him. So 3, do we take any damage? We took 1, we'll drop a wound, and then we'll pay attention at the start of the next round. We'll look at how many wounds we actually have. I can't reach them this turn, it'll be next turn, but that's fine. Gotcha. Okay, you'll come forward. In fact, I'll start moving this one around here. The justification being is that I want to get a double flank on this swordsman unit later. Turn 2. So we're at 6, and we're back up to... Oh, that's funny. Not only did we gain the wounds that we had lost when we went from 7 to 8, we even gained the extra one that we didn't have going into the fight. That's outrageous. And it might be a balance patch in the future where they take Salamander aspect away from this unit, because I think that's a bit too strong, but who am I to... This thing is invincible. I just realised there's no way they're ever going to be able to do anything about it. That's done. You can shoot me. It literally doesn't matter. You could do 6 wounds and it would be fine. So we'll charge them next turn. And then here, they've kindly moved into a position where I can flank them. Now, you don't have to... Ordinarily, what you'd want to do is you want to be careful, like, let's try and get completely out of their radius and get them inside. But we needn't bother. On this occasion, we just have to get the majority of unit into the side flank. The reason being is that, yes, they can see us and could countercharge. But, of course, we're going to end up side charging them with this unit as well. So, again, this will intercept. In fact, we can get a rear charge because we're so fast. So we'll do rear and side. So they'll charge us, we'll intercept them. Because they've been intercepted, they can't declare a charge on anything. So we can just get the side for free. So look, they've charged me. Absolutely not. And then we'll take the free side charge there. And you can go straight in the front. Yeah. Pretty much the perfect engagement. And yeah, we can use it. So is there any point in using Warcry? So we'll power 4 plus 1 is 5. That'll get me to 6, but they're defense 4, so it's irrelevant. Here, it'll be power 4. And the unit's power 4, so plus 5 for the charge, +6 for him is irrelevant, and here where it's also... Okay, so it's completely moot for this round of combat, but will be relevant for the next round if they're still holding in there. So it doesn't matter, we'll hold on to it, because if they're still fighting, we'll no longer have the charge bonus next turn, so it will actually help us to use it on that turn. This is our unit killing 2 of them, good, so they hit back. They failed to hit at all because we have equal skill. And then the riders here kill a couple more, so they've been flanked twice and they've taken 4 wounds, so lose by 6, and they just break and run, not surprising. 2 hits. So this thing's amazingly durable, but this doesn't have an amazing damage output, so fine, it's never going to really be bothered. Then actually won combat because I had to do so little damage. Oh, for God's sake. Okay, so the one way you could theoretically lose is you lose combat and then roll terribly on discipline. Because it has such good discipline, what I should be able to do now is just skip charges. They're just going to keep running away. We needn't bother. You can roll to rally, so yeah, they're going to shoot us, but we don't care because we'll never take any meaningful damage. So we'll rally, and then now we're back in. Okay, so we will just try that again until we eventually win. I'm happy to skip the phase. I'm actually going to turn him around and have him redeem himself and go fight them again. There's nothing they can do to ever kill him. They can't... I mean, there's 8 of them, so in theory, with miraculous rolling, they could do exactly 8 wounds in a turn and kill him. No, they only hit 4 times. We're fine. I'm going to demand that you go back there and try that again. Yeah. Just going to skip phase. I'm happy to leave them there. They'll run away at the end of this turn regardless, but running away be damned. I expect you to do better. We're really struggling against squishy backline archer units this campaign, I've just realised. They're all bouncing off of them rather embarrassingly. There you go, kind of bad hit roll. 2 more. 3 times, so no damage. That's how it should have gone, and then they probably run away. No, they're okay. So the reason it's 6 instead of 5, so they're discipline 7, and I won by 2, so you think, well, 7 minus 2 is 5, but they only had to roll a 6. The reason for that is that they get +1 for having a rank, so it improves their roll by somewhat. Okay, so our character now leveled, so Slargrak, so he can also become a raptor aspect, which is interesting, so he can do multi-wounds against monsters, which is cool. You can give him just +1 extra attack, flat or discipline. The discipline is pretty pants. You never really want to bother with this, let's be honest, because you only use discipline if you're losing fights, and you probably don't want to be playing the game in such a way that you're losing fights. So it's a choice between these two. I mean, it depends. So this would be more useful against infantry and things, because the raptor aspect does nothing against 1 wound enemies, but I'm pretty sure we could handle most infantry anyway, so I'm going to give him raptor aspect so we can chew through big monsters and cavalry and stuff effectively. And his accompanying Saurian Warrior is leveled. Interesting. I could give them the same and have this unit be an elite killer. But what I'll probably do for them, so the Saurian Warriors, the block infantry they're really more defensive oriented than doing damage output. They're not great in terms of hitting things. So they have high defense already, so defense 5. So if you give them reroll 1s, usually that means they save on 3+, and if they roll any 1s on the save, they then have an opportunity to roll that dice again to try and get a better number to not die. So it'd be 3s rerolling 1s. I'm happy to take that because it kind of leans into their defensive aspect. And then healing stuff, so this unit's still fine. We're going to take gold on Triceratops every turn. It's always going to be 8 wounds. And I'm trying to get 2 here. Bollocks, we still get 1. But 4 is at least now a usable unit for damage purposes. Okay. Plus you can shoot 2 more times. It's funny. Okay, so we're in an armory now. So there's a shop, so you can buy new units up here. And you can upgrade the ones you already have. Now, the Saurian Spear unit's kind of a bit dull, so I'll probably take one of these 2. Pterodactyl Riders are exactly what you think. They're a hyper-mobile but very squishy, fragile unit that you can throw up the board. But I'm actually going to take the more interesting one, the Jungle Swarm. So they're pretty weak to start off with, but you've seen it now. So once you get the Salamander upgrade on the Jungle Swarms, they have 5 wounds each. And they're like fearless leadership 11. They'll never ever run away. So they're pretty immovable once they actually get into combat. No upgrades for them. So in terms of other options, your character can upgrade and you get banners. So the banners do a myriad of things. So War Banner, +1 to combat score, so for combat resolution. Reroll your failed tests. You don't usually take these because you should be setting up fights in such a way that you'll be winning them anyway. But the Banner of Fury is very interesting because it gives you +1 power on the charge. So they'll have 4 base, 5 for hand, weapon and shield, and then 6 for this. So there'll be 6, and then you could go up to 7 with the Warcry ability of the Warlord. So that's pretty interesting. Swiftness is +1 movement, which is fantastic for a rider unit. You'd probably want to take that. 2 extra shots from him, and then Mist is an interesting one where it makes it harder for enemies to shoot you, which is pretty cool. So what you want to do, you can have a look at what your options are and look at your gold. So we're on 152. I would like True Strike on our character, so it allows him to re-roll his missed attacks. So that's pretty great, so it makes him very consistent in terms of hitting things. Leaving us with 102. You can leave a shop and have a look at your army and then go back in if you want. So he's power 4, he'll go up to 5. His shield makes him 6, with defense 6, which is incredible. So if you took a weapon instead, you can take 2 extra attacks or take a great weapon, which is forfeits your defense for having a permanent +1 power instead. So the +1 charge bonus power is the same, but you get a permanent power. Between the two, I mean, he's already defense 5. Defense 6 is a nice break point because when you're fighting enemies, the defense of a character is a bit niche where it doesn't really come up very often because when an enemy fights you, it fights the defense of the unit. So it will be the unit's defense, it's not his own. So it's kind of relevant. The exception is duels. So if you face an enemy unit that has another character in it, they'll enter a duel with one another and it will use his individual stats. But honestly, skill 4, defense 5, wounds 3, you'll probably be fine against most characters. So I'd rather take the great weapon and just hit things. Just before I do that, let's have a look. So I'm definitely going to take the Banner of Fury here because that's a really good ability. Probably not actually, because I would rather the Banner of Swiftness on the riders so they can maneuver better. Just make them even faster. Okay, and that's where we leave off there. So we have, if you want to know, you can even rename the jungle swarms, the slither swarm there if you wanted. You could rename every one of the million of snakes that you get. But that's the end of that part. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, do like and subscribe. This run will continue. There's plenty of SOVL content on the channel and other kind of Warhammer or Warhammer related-esque kind of gaming stuff for those interested. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.